All right, East Lake, Florida, super cool suburb around the Tampa area. Today we're gonna talk about some of the pros and cons of living in this area. Here we go. I'm Sam, and this is the Living in Tampa channel. We make these videos for you about what it's like to live and move to the whole Tampa area. Today we're talking about East Lake because a lot of our customers really like this area, and our customers is why we make these videos. We would love a chance to earn your real estate business in the whole Tampa area. Give us a call, text, or email anytime. So usually when people are calling, they're moving from out of state, they're thinking about neighborhoods and schools and commute times and all these kind of things. And I'll do another video kind of overview about East Lake, but right now let's hit on some of the pros and cons. So East Lake, you see right here on the map where it is. It's on the east side of Lake Tarpon. Not a very original name. Most of this area was developed in the late 90s, early 2000s. So my wife grew up on the other side of the lake in Tarpon Springs. And one confusing thing about East Lake is a lot of the houses have Tarpon Springs addresses and then some of them have Palm Harbor addresses, but it's still East Lake. Florida's like that, it's confusing. But Tarpon and East Lake have this rivalry. So I was like, Christina, what are some of the pros and cons of East Lake? What should I talk about in this video? She's like, well, one of the cons is if you live there, you get snobby. It's funny that that's kind of the Tarpon perspective of East Lake. And of course we know tons of people that live in East Lake and it's not the case overall, but you know, when schools have this kind of rivalry and it's kind of this like blue collar, white collar rivalry or something like that, or it's this like old town and fancy suburb, that kind of clash, that exists here for sure. So East Lake is about 30,000 people, and that's actually bigger than Tarpon Springs, and it's about half the size of Palm Harbor. And this whole area is super suburban. It's super neighborhood dominated. We'll talk about that in some of the pros and cons, but just to build a little bit of framework here. It's mostly one road that goes through this whole area, north and south East Lake Road. And it connects you to all kinds of things, but it's mostly that one north and south road through here. Okay, let's get right into the cons. With there being just that one road up and down the middle, it feels a little bit isolated in East Lake. Now maybe that's what you're looking for, but let's talk about the negative side of that right now. So you've got a lake on one side, you've got a preserve on the other, and you've got to go north or south to get to one of these big east-west roads, being Keystone Road or being Tampa Road down south. That's kind of annoying because you've got to make this jog before you can get around the lake, or you can get around the preserve, you can get around down to Tampa through Oldsmar. It's kind of annoying. It's kind of isolated, and some of our friends that live here have brought that up, that it feels like it takes them a while to get anywhere. Con number two is that East Lake is kind of small. Now, as I said, it's bigger than Tarpon Springs, where I lived previously, but for this area, it's kind of a small section. 30,000 people is a pretty small section. When you compare it to somewhere like Palm Harbor, that's 60,000, or somewhere like Clearwater, that's 115,000. This area feels kind of small. It's mostly just neighborhoods. Number three con is about those neighborhoods. This area is very HOA dominant. So neighborhoods with pretty strict HOAs, with pretty strict deeds, with really nice amenities and really nice homes, but you have to play that whole HOA game. Okay, number four con is with these neighborhoods, they're mostly on smaller lots. Homes are mostly on smaller lots. There's not a whole lot of yard space. Of course, there are some properties in the midst of all this that are excluded from the neighborhoods. There's a few like horse farms and things like that. I've seen those come up for sale over the years. It's super fun to check out. And as you get closer to the lake, there's a little bit more exclusive properties with bigger lots that have access to Lake Tarpon. Huge lake, really popular for, you know, skiing, wake surfing, and bass fishing, and it's a big, big lake. Yes, there are alligators around the edge of that lake. They don't really swim out to the middle. People still are just in the lake all the time. Not a big deal. That's one of those things when you move to Florida, before you move to Florida, it feels like it's a big deal. Alligators are scary. Once you move here, you feel like, not that big of a deal. There's a big list of things like that, like sinkholes and evacuation zones and those kind of things. Okay, that was number four. Now number five kind of goes along with that. It's pretty cookie cutter. Homes are pretty consistent, and maybe you like that, but right now we're gonna talk about the negative side of that. When a neighborhood is cookie cutter, it's just super uniform. You don't have much diversity in the homes. You don't have much diversity in the lots. The roads don't curve as much. The landscaping isn't as unique. It's all pretty predictable. I don't love that, and from talking to a lot of you, I know that some of you really like that, but some of you really don't. All right, and con number 6, because of the era that these homes were built in, late 90s, early 2000s, a lot of them need updates. Now, some have been updated. I was showing one just the other day. It was listed at $980. Nice 5-bedroom house with a pool, but it had been updated a little bit, kind of piecemeal, and didn't feel cohesive. Like the whole home for $1 million home just didn't feel like, design-wise, it made sense. That was the main reasons my clients didn't like it, because you could stand in one place and see multiple floors, or because, you know, the upstairs design didn't match the downstairs design. And when you have homes that are ready to be updated, you'll get some of that kind of piecemeal updating, but sometimes you'll just find one that hasn't been touched at all, and you need to do updates, or you want to do updates. All right, let's get right into the pros. Pro number 1 is this area is very family focused. Has really good public schools that often are competing with those Palm Harbor University schools, and often ranked right up there with them. Even though that Palm Harbor University High has that international baccalaureate program, this Eastlake High is still really competitive with them, and also has pretty good sports teams. So that was number 1, family focused. But number 2 pro is actually the schools. They do have really great schools here. They're in Pinellas County. You could also join the magnet system and have access to some of the other schools in the area if you wanted to go to like a fundamental elementary school on the other side of the lake or something like that. But this is often one of the areas we recommend because of the schools. Pro number 3, and some of you hear me say this and you're like, stop talking about the trees, but a lot of you hear me say this and you're like, yes, that's what I want. This neighborhood has beautiful trees, beautiful landscaping neighborhood. I'm in Landsbrook right now, which is one of the bigger neighborhoods over here. But Eastlake is full of neighborhoods like this with big, beautiful, mature landscape. And you don't find that often for neighborhoods that were built like this. They kind of level everything out and then build, but they preserved a lot of it. And you do have this big water source right next to this neighborhood. Then you have a big preserve on the other side. So the whole area is a very natural kind of feel. Pro number 4, and this was a con, but we're gonna make it a pro as well, is the isolation. So this area, the lake on one side, the big Brooker Creek Preserve on the other side, it's kind of sandwiched in here. It's super quiet. You do have some commute traffic, you know, morning and night, but it's pretty quiet overall, especially if you get off of Eastlake Road and you're in one of these neighborhoods. It's super, super quiet. Okay, pro number 5, these neighborhoods are pretty thoughtful. There's a lot of neighborhoods in the Tampa area that are just grids. And there's a couple of those in this area where it feels like it's just a grid. But a lot of these neighborhoods, whether it's like Landsbrook or one of the golf course neighborhoods or one of the little pocket neighborhoods, a lot of these are really cool. And what do I mean thoughtful? I mean like they make the roads curve a little bit more. You know, maybe they back up to green space, they back up to a golf course, they back up to water, where a lot of the homes are not just like stacked on top of each other. And that's really valuable if you're going to be in a neighborhood like this, to not feel like you're so packed in there. And pro number 6 is Lake Tarpon. Huge lake, 2,500 acres, super big, cool, freshwater, spring-fed lake. All kinds of stuff you can do out there. All kinds of parks like John Chestnut Park that have cool boardwalks that go like look out on the lake. This whole area is pretty preserved around the lake, and because of how long the lake is, there's a lot of properties that have access to it. There's a lot of boat ramps that can get into it. There's all kinds of things like that in these neighborhoods or in these parks. The lake is a super cool feature, even visually, to just be able to go to a park and know you can see a huge lake that you can hardly even see across to the other side. It's super cool. Okay, those are some of the pros and cons of living in Eastlake. I would love to hear what kind of questions you have. Have you guys thought about Eastlake? Is it an interesting option to you? As always, call, text, or email anytime. We would love a chance to connect with you, hop on a Zoom call, and see how our team can best help you. Thanks for coming by.